which is
okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, namaste to all of you. So how was the last couple of weeks? And we covered in the last session the very first sutra, right? Atha Yoga, that's what we talked about. The second we're going to talk, Atha Yoga Vyakhya Sama, right? Yeah. Now, right now we're going to talk about the second sutra. Before that, is there any thought process you had, any conversation you had, discussions you had? And again, Meral asked me about it. So before you asked Mary, my background on what you see on the screen, he's Sringeri Shankaracharya. You know, if you heard about the position called Shankaracharya, it was one of the oldest monasteries in India, Hindu monasteries in India. He's an 8th century scholar, a Vedanta scholar who really collected everything and he propounded his Advaita philosophy, actually. And he established 4 monasteries across the nation, one in the South India, in the state of Karnataka, near Bangalore, where he put in Sringeri monastery. And from that century onwards, unbroken line of great gurus, succession of gurus have been guiding millions of people. And this person was my guru. I met him, through my college friend who was with both of us in engineering college. Through him, he took me there. And after that, my life turned upside down. Is one of the great philosophers, greatest intellect, and yogi par excellence. And I mean, you can everything, obviously, you can say it's superlative. And he transformed so many lives. The beauty of this person is that he's been a very kind person. He does not put any demand on anybody, depending upon the status of their life, the area from which they come from. He will adapt his teachings. The core he would keep, but in terms of discipline and practice, etc., he would give suggestions which is easy to implement. And so suddenly call it and say, okay, from tomorrow onwards, you should eat only once. You should not do that. Instead of doing that, he will take us gradually. And to me particularly, he would give me all kind of suggestions, very interesting. He'd say, hey, go and see that. Talk to this person. They're doing a great discussion there. Listen to that. You push me to various activities, and that activity, each and every of those activities may be only 1 or 2 hours, but it would trigger 10 years of my analysis. That kind of a thing. So I thought it is appropriate to have him and have him bless all of us in our effort. So, all right. So before getting to the second sutra, which is again is very 3 words only. Yoga, Chitta, Vrutti, Nirodha. Before we go there, I want to ask you, did you think through what we discussed? Any new thoughts which has emanated from you, or any questions, any anecdotes to share, etc.? Please feel free.
Yeah, I had lots of things. I should have written them down. But one thing that stuck with me is that over the years of studying yoga and doing it, I've learned so many different words for mind, and chitta, manas, buddhi, all. I can't even say them all right now, but I'm wondering what the nuance is, and is chitta the thinking mind, or the mind and what's how many minds do we have?
Okay.
Are they all in different places,
Yes. Great question. I will answer that. Obviously, it is going to be part of this conversation about the second sutra. But at this point, I would just point out that technically speaking, they are not the same. Though in English translations, many times these words are interchangeably used, they are not the same. And what are they then? What is a chitta? What is a manas? What is a buddhi? And what is the relationship among them? And why 3 different things? All those things are going to be part of the conversations you're going to have potentially today. I don't know if I can cover everything today, but surely this will be the conversation. So you really started the conversation, in my opinion. Yeah.
I thought about this, what we discussed 2 weeks ago. And my outcome of way of thinking was that, like we really have to decide. I mean, I have to decide what do I want. And as I told you last time, I really would like to become a very good teacher. And I'm really hoping that through practice and reading, or I don't know how, but I get to a point of chapter 248, verse 48, when I just don't see the differences between black and white, good and bad, sweet and bitter. So all of those things, they disappear, and that will be a release for me, because hoping that maybe that way I just can become a better, even better teacher, yoga teacher, for others and for myself. That's it. That was my outcome.
Yeah, great. It's very, very true. I mean, you cannot become a good teacher until let's say we cannot become a good teacher until we have not only have understood the meanings of these words, which is very important. Not only have we practiced most of, if not all, the guidelines are given in this book, but more importantly, the outcomes which this book promises. Like I explained last time, every traditional Indian book will always set out what is the objective of the book before they even go into the details of the instruction. Yeah, that's why the first sloka we discussed so much. Why do they say Atha Yoga? Why yoga? What is that reason why we do that? So, granted, the books are written with multiple people, all sections of society in mind. Therefore, granted that the objectives as well as the instruction to achieve those objectives are designed with the purpose of covering everybody. And also recognizing that there are differences between person to person. Individuals are different, their starting points are different. Because if you remember, in the last section last class we talked about, each one of us have traveled several different births before we are here today. And we have had different trajectories. We may be converging today on a particular point, at least temporarily, but fact of the matter is we all have started differently. We have traveled differently. We are here. And going forward, as we shed this body, assume some other body, we will also travel into different directions. Recognizing this aspect, these books will have objectives and instructions which are covering multiple types. The corollary or the meaning of this statement is everything need not happen to everybody. If this book says that 10 different things will happen to you if you accomplish great success in this, all the 10 need not happen to everybody. 2 may happen to you, 1 may happen to me, none may happen to me. It depends upon where we are or momentum is. Therefore, what is important is to recognize this and keep our mind light, not to calibrate every other day. Okay, it says 8 great siddhis will come. Did I get at least one of it? Instead of doing the calibration, disconnect from any of it. If it happens. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. The main objective of this exercise is to recognize, like I said last time, to recognize what you have today as Miral, Mary, or Patty is not the real identity. Something else is our true identity. Trying to understand that identity, trying to realize that identity, right? That's the main objective. If we keep it, but therefore, it's important that we should achieve certain things. Only then you can become a master and teach somebody else. That way, I really, really appreciate both of you. I mean, you've done hours and hours of formal training, you got certified, and still you are on this quest. It's very, very amazing that you're having this right attitude, but absolutely correct. Understand the words, understand the sentences, understand the purport, not only the meaning, but purport, the objective of these sentences, understand the objective of the whole book, and then realize it, and then you become better and better because you're able to now not only teach the physical aspects of yoga, but more importantly, the real objective of this yoga. That way, I think it's a very, very, very important, very, very great, shall we say, a goal you have in mind. Yeah. Okay, Mary, since you started this concept of conversation, we're talking about buddhi, chitta, manas, and all the same different, etc. I will just read the sutra and give a top level meaning and let you talk about it. Okay. So because that will lead us to a lot of conversation and hope, and I will have hopefully opportunity to share some of the material that I prepared. The second sutra goes, yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. That means yoga's objective is to subsume, not to eliminate or suppress, but subsume the variations or the manifestations or agitations of chitta. Vrutti means all the disturbance, modifications. Several people say differently, but ultimately it is not being what it is or it should be. That's called vrutti. Nirodha is not control. You should never suppress anything, because even psychology, modern psychologists agree that if you suppress or ignore certain things, it is bound to come back much more vehemently some of the time. What is important to sublimate or subsume, as they say? What is sublimation? All of us have seen camphor, right? It's a process in which a matter changes its state without going into intermediate state. For example, a solid generally becomes a liquid before it starts evaporating into gas or a vapor stage. Sublimation means straight away it skips a step in between. Like camphor is the example which is always given. It straight away becomes it vaporizes straight away. That's nearest the example one gives, that nirodha, though technically, grammatically might make control, what is implied here is sublimation or subsume all the agitations which a chitta has. That is the objective of the yoga. Now, since you mentioned about chitta, I would like you to talk a little bit about it before I get on to saying what exactly is the chitta.
Do you mean in reference to the Yoga Sutra?
Not necessarily, because we are just starting the Yoga Sutra. Whatever you have been thinking so far in your life, whatever you have learned in your life, because that's what made you say the statement, right?
Well,
so I just want to explore that.
The chitta, well, I think of the chitta mind as the ordinary mind. And I think that when it says chitta vritti, I think it's the thoughts that are turning in my mind all the time. There are thoughts always in my mind telling me this and that. And, they're all, sometimes they contradict each other. Sometimes it's like, oh, she did this and oh, this. It's all this kind of mechanical way of thinking, this automatic kind of that's going on, that I know when I practice meditation, I allow those thoughts to continue, but there's no attention on those thoughts. So I'm not going in all the directions that they take me in. Instead, I just focus inward, and the thoughts diminish on their own. They're not important. And then I can touch on something, something that's deeper within me. So I'm not sure if that's what chitta is, those thoughts that I'm talking about, I don't really know. I may experience things, but I don't know what to name them in terms of, in Sanskrit or in the yoga tradition. Because like I had said last week, most of my yoga training was first lots of hatha yoga, lots of asana, lots of, and then gradually the search deepened. I mean, the search was always there, but it started to open up to me more. And so, because I think there's a mind in here that knows a truth in here, because I'm feeling it now. And I don't feel like I have to be a certain way or I have to say anything right or correct, because when I'm connected to that, everything's okay.
I think very well said for the following reason. Meryl, do you want to say anything about it before I go on to the conversation?
I don't think I can say anymore, because like I don't, even if I looked it up in the yoga dictionary or whatever, it still doesn't, I still don't know it in the sense that, that's Chitta mind, that's Chitta, that's this, because I have to experience it and know it and experience it and practice knowing it. That's to know it. I can't know something unless I know it.
Very, very true. Very true. Meryl?
Yes, what Mary said, this is a very, how should I say, difficult chapter to really understand on a deep level, because it's not even what is mind, but what is nirodha, right? What is concentration? And one time I had an experience when at work, I went to the computer and suddenly from here, my mind just, like a tunnel, which is like going down to one point. It went like this. And I just focused on it narrowed in. It was a very interesting experience. And I'm very grateful for this experience because it's narrowed into the computer and I could see the people walking and talking. I could see them, but I couldn't see them. I could hear them, but I couldn't hear them.
Perfect.
And I was thinking about this experience, not that I hold on to these experiences because the Sutra taught us that we shouldn't hold on to this because this can be a really, it can be a block. But the mind is, I don't know what is that. It's just like the air. It's everywhere and nowhere, and it's hard to grasp it because what? Is that the brain itself? It's like a matter, like a physical thing, or it's something which is, we can think of something and send thoughts to another person, or the other person can send thoughts to us. So I don't even know what is the mind, really. I don't really even know anything. Seriously, I can see that what it's written down here, but of course I would have to become like more, like I would have to start with meditation practice, which I try, but I never could really do it. But I'm trying I try every day. So once I start to get meditation in a real sense, not just think, just saying, oh, I meditate, once I start to be able to really kind of observe my mind into something and keep it there steady, I guess I would know what is that. But I really cannot answer this. What is Chitta?
That's okay. I mean, but you both of you did answer in my point of view because of the following reason. I mean, it may look like I'm putting the cart before the horse, as they say. Instead of explaining, I'm asking you to answer first. For the following reason, Patanjali Rishi has compiled all these sutras. Carefully, they say in Indian tradition, he didn't originate anything. He just compiled. What it means is this knowledge was already there in various people's minds in different ways. He tried to compress them and give in a sutra form. Tradition says that this whole methodology or the technique was taught by Shiva. I'm assuming both of you would have heard about God Shiva. who is responsible for teaching the whole world, universe, the yoga. There is a logical reason why they say Shiva or the God himself taught this. That reason being, if we say that any knowledge which is very helpful to people in a simple sense, or which liberates people from their pain in a grand statement form, if we say that, then the logical question would be, what happened to the people who were born before that person was born? What crime did they commit that they did not get this technique? Thousands of years, this technique is not there. People did not know how to get out of this sadness or non-joyful life. And suddenly a person comes and teaches, and only those who were born after that person was born got the benefit. If we say this, then something basically wrong with our notion of God. That means God is making a choice. Only some people will get it, some people will not get it. That is not a great idea of what a God is, because we all believe that God has to be kind to everybody. Not only in India, America, Africa, everywhere. For any kind of people, anytime. Otherwise, what is the point of having such a God? Therefore, logically speaking, any knowledge which helps anybody in the world, any time of the world, right? Anywhere, anytime, when we add these kind of prefixes, it has to come originally from the God himself. Because we believe, the starting point of the entire proposition is that God is the first person in the whole universe. Therefore, all knowledge is necessary for liberating people has to come along with the first person. That is why, logically speaking also, we have to tie all this knowledge into God or the Ishvara concept, whoever it could be. In India, we would like to believe it is Shiva. Somewhere else they may call differently. But fact of the matter is that principle has to be the origin of all knowledge. What is the corollary of this? It means different kinds of people in different parts of the world in different times have tapped into this knowledge, because it's available to everybody. Some may have tapped one particular way, others may have done it differently, some may have tapped partially, some may have done fully. But fact of the matter is, it is there for everybody. The next corollary to the statement is that, strictly speaking, you don't need any specific guru to teach you this, because God himself has given it. Right? Patanjali Maharishi got it because he was able to connect with that Ishvara Tattva, the God principle, and get this straight away. By listening to many people, he was able to connect. If you are able to connect, you should be able to get that directly too. For example, though both of you are not experts in Sanskrit language, though both of you are not part of the Indian system to have at least heard about it every other day, somewhere or other, in spite of all those things, you're more or less able to explain this. You're able to say that my Chitta cannot be in mind alone. Why Buddhi Chitta? Why all these things? I'm able to hear things, see things, but still not see. This is the sentence you use. I'm able to see things, but still did not see them. This is exceedingly powerful statement. Please hold on to it. As we explore this more and more, we'll constantly come back and ask this question. What is seeing? Who is seeing? How do we see? Right? And why do we see and yet not see sometimes? And more importantly, why is it sometimes seemingly we don't see, but still we see things? How is it possible? In the sense you're particularly not paying attention, but suddenly some manifestation happens. You're able to recognize that. How? That means in the whole process of seeing needs to be examined from three major, shall we say, three major ways. That is, what are we seeing? What is the seeing process? And by the way, who is seeing? These are three very, very, very important questions which we need to explore. That is where we have to connect back and say, Chitta Vrutti. Let's not worry about Nirodha, we can worry later. Control or sublimation, subsuming, etc. we can see later. But first of all, we have to understand what is this Chitta in which Vrutti or the modifications or the disturbances happens. What is this? That is where it goes straight into a model called the Sankya System. If you remember, I mentioned it last time. Because we have to first of all answer these questions. What is this Chitta? Why is this Chitta getting modified or disturbed or agitated? Chitta Vritti, why does it happen? Unless we understand this, the conversation around subsuming or sublimating Nirodha means meaningless. We need to understand this. In fact, when we understand the Sankhya model is extremely important. It plays a very great part in all philosophies. India has got, from Indian point of view, there are 6 major directions, Shat Darshanas they call, 6 different ways people look at things. And based on that, they've developed a lot more secondary and tertiary type of philosophical models. But the core is same. The crux of the whole thing is cognition. We see things in a particular way, and that particular way controls our happiness. That's the main, if I have to kind of summarize in one line, I can do it this way, that we see things in a particular way, and that particular way we see controls us completely. And then what happens is we become the victim of that. For certain reasons, which we'll explore down the line, we choose to see in a particular way and not any other way. It is almost like our choice. We made a choice to see in a particular way, and then that way becomes the master and we become the slave. That's the real problem. Therefore, we need to clearly understand the whole process of grasping an object, seeing the object, experiencing the object. That object could be material or non-material, but fact of the matter is we would like to treat them as an object, an observing process. Yes, please.
You said it's our choice, but I don't know that I have a choice, because when I think of who I have become, how I was brought up, the school I went to, all the things, what my parents taught me, that's what, on some level, that's how I behave based on what I've learned and practiced all these years. And when I react to something, like if somebody sees, something, they get upset by it, maybe I find joy in it, maybe, so how can that also then, that's not true. That's not really truly what I am. That's what I was made to be, or that's how I became based on education and upbringing and society, the country I was brought up in, maybe the values there and all that. So that's not really who I am.
Excellent question. I would answer this way. This is why I want to take it very, very slow, because every statement would trigger quite a few questions, and we need to answer them before we go beyond. Even before I start defining the cognition process using the Sankhya model, I need to answer this question first. Whether we're talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutra or the Sankhya model, please see them as a part of another mosaic of methodology. Components of a big mosaic of methodology is part of that, which has come from India. So we have to see it in a whole. You cannot take one piece and try to answer from a French or a British or an American thought process. With each person, set of people have approached it from a different starting point. There are many things that are common in all thought processes, but the starting point has been different and objectives have been different. Consequently, the coverage of the conversation has been different in an American thought process or a European thought process, Indian thought process. So from that perspective, let me address it from the Indian thought process. That probably would make it a lot more easier to understand. The notion that we are on a continuum or a continuous journey of different births, we have to have in mind. That is to some extent unique for Indian thought process. In many other philosophical standpoints, metaphysics, that rebirth is not even there. Therefore, it doesn't address that. Because this has come from India, we have to accept that thought process. What does it mean? It means, in one way, it is not your choice that you are, because you're born in a particular country, in a particular family, in a society, and therefore you went through certain things which conditioned you. Nevertheless, yeah, I agree with you. They conditioned you, no doubt about it. But when we see ourselves as a part of long, continuous chain of births, it means not only you were born with certain after effects of the previous appearances you had when you were born in a particular family in France or wherever. The reason why you are born in that family itself is because of that. It is not accident that you are born in a particular set of parents in a particular country in a family. It is the momentum. If you remember the first session also I talked about, we all come with a momentum. It is taken in a particular trajectory, is the word which I use. That means for every birth we have, every appearance we will have three components. First component will be the one which we brought from various previous existences. What are called as the tendencies, as we call. Vasanas is the word which is used in Sanskrit. A tendency, we are born with it. The second, surely, you said it very rightly, is the conditioning which happens in the family. Our parents raise us in a particular way. Of course, we resist it. We don't follow exactly what our parents say. That means the third component is our individual choice comes into picture. That means there are three components here. One, seemingly born with a particular set of tendencies or vasanas, which are but a consequence of all the previous births which you've had. Number one, conditioning by parents, society, village, town where we live, the school, etc. That is the second component. Third is individual choice we make. We accept certain things, we reject certain conditioning, and we develop our own as well. All put together is the result, causes the result of who and what we are today. And we continue to morph, we continue to change because we continue to exercise our individual choices to alter certain likes, add certain dislikes, and so on and so forth. Does it address your question?
Yeah, it's good.
Don't have to agree. Please feel free to disagree.
No,
it's very important.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I still think that it's not really who I am. It's not real, but that there's a path that I'm on to sort of let these things drop away, where I can just that's just kind of the feeling but I can't help the habits. I can't help right now, but sometimes I feel that I can be in a place where, yes, I don't need that in my life, and that's not really who I am. But I think it's going to take a long time.
Oh, yes, it is. It takes a very, very long time. It's like, there's a term in software called bootstrapping. Many of us would have heard about bootstrapping. We have to lift ourselves with ourselves. Somebody else cannot lift us. But it's very funny because we have a problem. We understand we have a problem. We are struggling. But still, we have no other person other than ourselves to lift ourselves. That's why we go through this process of, doubts, self-doubts, and suddenly our spirits go up, spirits go down, and things like that. It's a part of the process. The most important thing is, like I said in the first session, it's hard, but that's what the simplest way to do is to treat ourselves as a dry leaf, which is being blown here and there by wind or on a jungle stream. Yeah. Minal, your thoughts, please.
That's hard. I don't really have too much thoughts, but I'm aware of my emotions, and even when I have an emotions in my mind, I say that to myself, and I say that to myself. Now look at you, Mirel. You are crying or you're laughing, and I'm just wondering what organ is off in your body now to do this. And I used to do, like do not to get attached to too many things, that I went ahead and I started to eat rice, picking up rice pieces with my left hand. And then I started to eat that way. Or I started to write with my left hands. Or I went on the subway, there was a homeless person, everyone left the subway. I sat next to the homeless person. Or, just really things what I normally would not do. So I just went against that, and I just did it to break habits, habitual mind. And I don't know if I could do that or not, probably not really. But I have tried, and I don't know. I don't think about these things, Mr. Rao. I just want to be a good yoga teacher again. So, so I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Okay, not a problem. That's fine. So let me try to share a screen, a diagram, which gives the whole Sankhya model in a one screen. Let me try to give you a structure of it. I hope this sometimes sharing the screen. Oh, you have to probably enable this.
Yes, how do I do that? Okay, share screen. Okay, I share.
No. If you share only your screen, you must enable the screen. Let us see.
Okay, hold on. What should I do? All right.
I think it says you have to enable participant sharing. I don't know, whatever it means. Participant.
Share. So what should I do?
Let me see.
I'm not really very good. Aparna helped me to set up.
Oh, okay. You.
So hold on. Share screen.
Enable participant sharing.
Let me just see. Enable, invite, no. Reaction recording, share screen. I think maybe if you go share, and then you can go ahead and on the top you are sharing screen. Can you go on your top, Mr. Rao, and just click on that, and you will see that share screen, or do you?
Okay, I will request a remote control.
Uh-huh.
Then you give granted.
What is that?
Yeah.
Approve, yes. Okay.
Approve? Okay, let me see. Oh, okay. You disable the participant sharing. Okay. Let's do one thing.
Can you do that now? Can you do that?
No, it doesn't. Still, it says.
Go ahead and click on that share screen again, please.
I did. It says host disable participant sharing.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
You have to enable that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one thing in the interest of time.
I shared it again, so maybe you can try now, or
no, it's not your sharing. You must allow me to share. What we can do is I'll send you the diagram from on the email.
Uh-huh.
Then you can start sharing. That way we can save some time.
I really apologize. I don't know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Not an issue. With Aparna can hopefully.
I am so sorry. I feel so embarrassed.
No, that's okay. So it's nothing to feel bad about. We are all learning together, so it's perfectly fine. I will send you two things.
Can you email it to us? Would you able?
Yes, I've just emailed you one.
Okay. So let me just see.
Then you can start sharing, then I'll explain that.
Yes. Let me just see. No, I didn't get that yet. I didn't get it from you yet. I got another email.
Yeah, it has gone to you.
Mhm. No, I don't have it yet, so I'm waiting for your email.
Okay.
I have it, yes.
Good, excellent.
Okay, so let me just open this one. I opened the first one, right? And then I will share the screen.
Yeah.
Yes, let me just do this. Can you see?
Can you open the other one, please?
In the same time? I don't know how.
No, you not same time. You can remove this and put that.
And do you want?
Yeah.
You want? Okay. Yes, I opened it.
Yes. Can you maximize it? I mean, full screen.
Yes, of course.
All right. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay. So, in other words, this is what is called as a. Mary, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, because I didn't see you, so I thought. Okay. So this is the Sankhya model. Sankya system defines what I call as a structure of the human entity. Any entity, but definitely human entity, particularly from the cognitive psychology perspective. How do we see things? When I say see, I'm not just seeing through the eye. I mean, how do we experience things? There has to be a mechanism by which we should be able to grasp the objects, register into something internal to us, and then interpret. I will send you these things to you, Mary, also by email for your record purposes. So we have to grasp the objects, register in a place, interpret those registered images, experience that, come to certain conclusions based on that experience, and then, shall we say, act on those experiences. We do certain things after that. How does this happen? This is very important because when we talk about Chitta Vrutti, that means modifications and agitations of the Chitta, the faculty called Chitta must be inside us. Only then that can be agitated or modified. Therefore, in our structure, there has to be a Chitta. And that Chitta should be able to connect, as it were, with the objects, physical or non-physical objects, and then grasp some information from them inside into the Chitta, register somewhere, and then interpret those images, and then based on those interpretations, come to certain conclusions. And mostly those conclusions will be like, I like it, don't like it, agreeable, disagreeable, etc. And based on those conclusions, automatically or deliberately do some actions. That could be an emotional swing at the minimum, feeling happy, feeling sorrowful, feeling angry, being disappointed. These are all emotional swings should happen. And then sometimes physically act as well, because you're angry, then what you do, you don't go and sit in a corner. Many, many times when you get angry, you go and, use your hands or whatever, physically you interact with the object in a particular way. All these things need to happen. That means we need to have within ourselves, not just the physical body, which we can see very well, all these intellectual as well as emotional and psychological components which help us make this do. Is this clear? I mean, am I making myself clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what are those components? Since we are talking about an external entity called objects, for example, external to us, not necessarily in the world, external to us. We've been saying from the first session onwards that our true identity is different from what we think we are. So always have that as a reference point, reference plane in all our conversations. Therefore, whenever we see external, it can be mostly external in the world, but many, many times it need not be external to in the world, but it could be external to the point of reference, our true identity. Have this in mind whenever we have this conversation. Therefore, going from outside in, if we want to go, we need to be able to grasp or sense or get a measure of external objects, which is external out in the world. For the present conversation purposes, we treat ourselves to be different from the external world. When I say external world, it means the earth, the city, the town, the villages, the buildings, the people outside, or what is what I mean by external world. That means I should be able to optically recognize the objects, visually recognize the objects. Therefore, when you see, you have here eyes. Are you able to see my marker moving?
No,
No?
they are not able to see the marker.
The arrow moving?
No, no arrow for me.
How is that? I think I've taken control, right? Okay, anyway, can you see the block called Jnanendriya?
Which one? Which one is that? I'm looking at Sankhya Model.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I thought I got my control, right?
Yes, but I don't know. I don't see your arrow. I just see mine. Let me just,
Follow.
I see your arrow moving. It's on the right-hand side, Muriel.
okay.
Going up and
yeah,
down.
yeah. Okay. All right. Yes.
I request this control remote. Can you grant the permission to remote moving?
I don't know even how do I get out from this screen now? You know, like how do I minimize it, because it's just, oh, here we go.
No, I request control. You grant it, then I'll be able to move it. I'm going to request control.
Okay, approved. I approved.
No, display. Okay. No, I think you're still controlling.
I don't know what else to do. I'm so sorry. I just clicked on approved.
Okay, I think there's a way. Next time onwards, I will originate the link, then I will be able to control. Okay, click on
but
this.
I could see that your arrow is moving now. Yes, I can see that. You're in control now.
Okay, let's say.
Yeah, I see your arrow is moving.
But I'm not able to.
You want to open it? You should come down here, right? Do you want me to open this for you? Which one?
Yes, please.
At this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's Sankhya Model. Let me just see this one here. I think I cannot open it. Sorry for this technical. Okay, here.
Okay. Now, are you able to see my arrow moving?
Yes. Yes, I do. Mary sometimes has a weak phone, but I know that she sometimes has a problem with the connection, but she can see.
Can you see? Can you see my arrow now?
Yes.
You see the eyes mentioned here?
Yes, I do.
Mary, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
So, like I said, if we want to visually, optically grasp, you need an instrument which can optically process the objects. So we need is what we call as eyes. We know what eyes are because, like Mary pointed out, we have been conditioned in the schools to understand what an eye is. So we are making use of that conditioning to our advantage now. So we have an eye. We may want to touch and feel them. So we have skin, which has got all the nerve endings, which trigger electrical signals when you touch certain things. And there may be sound emanating from that. And sometimes sound itself can be an object. When you're hearing a music, sound itself is an object. So we have a set of ears. Many times taste becomes the object. We like certain sweets we don't like, certain type of food we like, so on and so forth. So tongue, which has got a taste bud, is an instrument. Likewise, we use the fragrance or the aroma as means of grasping. We smell and say, you know what, even in chemistry lab, in the schools, we are taught to smell and use the smell to identify certain object, certain chemicals. In other words, we need these 5 sensing elements or sensors, as it were, sense instruments, as it were, to be able to physically grasp them, touch them, feel them, smell them, see them, taste them. That is the absolute minimum requirement for us. When I say us, the real us inside the Chitta, which we are going to explore further, the Chitta to be able to get signals and project somewhere inside the Chitta, you need at the minimum these 5 senses. Is this clear?
Yes.
Mary?
yes.
Okay, great. So where does this signal go? Obviously, these signals will have to go internal somewhere, into the Chitta somewhere. For if the Chitta were to be modified or agitated, Chitta has to be affected by Vrutti. These signals can potentially, we're not in there yet, but we're going step by step. These are the raw signals which can come and agitate the Chitta to start with. And these things come from what? From external objects, or which can be physical or non-physical. When we say physical, it has to have a shape, size, content of a matter, etc. In Indian ancient thought process, these 5 elements were taken, like we have periodic table in chemistry, which identifies so many elements, for the purpose of cognitive psychology, or what is called as a epistemology. That is, the experience of the observed knowledge is called epistemology. From that point of view, they define everything in terms of 5 elements. Like we say, water has got 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. Likewise, the entire stuff, physical stuff out there in the universe is made up of 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. This is how it is translated, but we could probably relate based on the condition learning that you have had. We can relate to it in a slightly different way. In the sense, when we say space, we mean everything has to be in 3-dimensional space that we understand physically to be existing. Air need not be just the air. It could be anything which is like air. Likewise, fire could be the heat element, and water could be the fluid element of things. Earth could be the physical matter element of it. Okay. Many times, notional terminologies are used in Indian thought process. We need to go back and understand that when we get there. In other words, using these building blocks, 5 elements called Mahabhutas, Panchabhutas, it's called 5, because it is 5, we call it as Panchabhutas as well. These are the ones which together make the physical aspect of objects which you are sensing. And these jnanendriyas are the ears, the skin, eye, the tongue, the nose, which represent the sound element, the touch and feel element, optical element, visual element, the taste element, the aroma element or the fragrance element. These two put together, that is jnanendriyas as well as Mahabhuta or Panchabhutas together, are the ones which are sending signals into this Chitta, which causes the disturbance. Is this clear?
Yes.
Mary, any doubt?
No.
Okay, great. Now, what is this Chitta then now? We said we need 2 or 3 things to happen. One, these signals have to be processed. First of all, they have to be registered, they have to be processed, they have to be interpreted, and due to which this Chitta has to be vrittified, as it were. The vritti has to, the modifications has to take place. So we need elements which can do all that. What are those elements? One is the mind element, which can pick up these signals, raw signals, and present it. And second is, there has to be an interpretation of those things that are here. For each of this, there are corresponding interpretation, because the raw signals is same for everybody. As long as your eyes, or your eye and my eyes physically, shall we say, all right. If you put a green color or red color, it will be seen as only green color and red color. That will not change. That is pure matter related, frequency and wavelength related. But you will say, I like red, and I will say, I don't like red. Red is same. Eyes are same. The signals which come out of the eye because the red is shown to it is same. Then why do I like it and you dislike and vice versa? That is where these things come into picture. There's an interpretive element which says, for a set of reasons, which we'll explore very soon, you don't like this color or you like this. That information comes along. So in other words, in addition to the raw signals, there are interpretation signals also come along, and somebody has to take a judgment, say that these are raw signals which says what is presented to you is the red color. But there is a subjective element which says you don't like red color, therefore avoid the red color or go away from red color. That is the intellect element. A buddhi element is necessary. Intellect always judges. Mind or manas always projects. Mind has no control. It goes all over. It just follows wherever the senses go. These 5 senses can go anywhere, pick up signals, and mind is the conduit or the channel or the tube through which the whole signals come. This interpretation module, as it were, starts providing additional information that you like it, you don't like it, etc. And then this intellect element will have to decide to take judgment as well as consequential action. But then these are all instruments. Just as eyes, ears, etc. are instruments, so is mind an instrument. So is this a processor. All these things might tie down to you as an individual. That means there has to be an element which says, I am a person. I have the ears. I have these eyes. I see this as red. I like it. I don't like it. So that is called the ahankara, self-identification element. This self-identification element picks up the raw signals which are coming from the senses of these physical elements, and using this interpretive module decides to like or dislike and say, I like it, using the intellect. This combination of buddhi, intellect, manas, mind, ahankara, or self-identification, three of them put together is called the chitta. Though loosely many people think chitta is manas. Manas is a component. There are three components in a chitta. Manas component, which performance objective is just to pick up raw signals from various senses and project it. That's all mind does. Buddhi is the one which decides, judges what would you do with the information, what to do with the information. And the self-identification element is the one which declares, I like it, I don't like it. Then the question is, if you like it or you don't like it, then do what? Then these instruments of action come into picture. If you like it, eat it. If you don't like it, reject it. If you like it, move towards it. If you don't like it, move away from it. If you like it, use the arms and embrace it. If you don't like it, use the arm to push it away, so on and so forth. Therefore, recognizing that a thought leads into an emotion after judgment, and emotion invariably results in physical action. These elements are the senses, or not senses, elements of physical action. All of them are physical action devices. So these 20 of them, 5 senses, grasp the information of the 5 basic elements of bhutas, and using these interpretive elements, five of them again, agitate the chitta, which results in activities in the 5 action-oriented elements called karma indriyas. Karma means activity, indriya means elements. So these put together, these 20 are the, as it were, like a printer, scanner, things like that, USB port kind of a thing. This is the CPU memory, computer memory kind of a thing. Chitta is a combination of intellect, mind, and self-identification element. So when Yoga Sutra says yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha, means this element which keeps constantly get agitated needs to be subsumed, needs to be trained so that this chitta does not jump up and down either in the positive way or a negative way just because a signal comes from outside. This element which judges agreeable, disagreeable information, somehow we should be able to gain control over this. Why? Because at the minimum, a mind, now I'm using mind in a generic term, but what we really mean is chitta. A chitta, which is a combination of mind, intellect, and the self-identification element, if it is stable and calm, you feel joyful. Why? Because when the disturbances quieten down in the chitta, more and more you can start looking internal to you and understand there is something called Mahat principle, and more importantly, there is something called your true identity, which, if you remember in the first session itself, I mentioned disconnecting ourselves from the external influences, and reconnecting ourselves to the true identity, the Purusha and Prakriti, what is mentioned here, is the journey. It is the Prakriti element which is one which is responsible for moving you away and away and away towards external world. Then we need to use yoga as a technique, as a framework, as a methodology to retrace the steps and connect the Chitta internal into this side rather than external to the outside. In order to be able to do that, the first step is to minimize the agitations which the Chitta undergoes. Is it too much for one day?
This is very nice. I really, so, you know, it's basically that when the mind is not to react to outside elements, right? And elements at all. And just, yeah. Or to the field of consciousness, what you're saying, right? And we use the yoga as a technique to achieve that.
Correct, correct. Very correct. The physical Hatha Yoga is just an element to prepare our body and mind. And when we add all the steps involved in being able to minimize and subsume and sublimate these modifications due to external stimuli, then our true identity automatically flashes. It's like you have a table lamp and you have plenty of scarves and handkerchiefs, etc., covering the lamp. When we remove those coverings, hand scarves and handkerchiefs, etc., light which is already there, you are able to see. It's not a new light. You're not going to light up anything new. It's already there. It is just that the modifications, the waves, the disturbances, the tsunami of emotions which cloud the Chitta so that you're not able to see your true light, internal light. You remove them one by one. Then automatically your true identity, which is quote unquote described variously as self-luminous. You don't need to light it up. It's already bright by itself. And in terms of emotional element, it is full of bliss and joy, manifests itself. That's why you find that we are able to really feel tremendously happy when you have a great yoga session or a meditative session. So what I will do is I'll stop with this for today, and I would like you to take this slide. I've sent to you, Miran, I will send to you also, Mary. I would like you to contemplate this. Think about it. And more importantly, does it relate to what you're really feeling and experiencing in your day-to-day life? When all the time you are seeing things, interacting with things, sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sorrowful. All these things happen to all of us every day. So this is not pure theory. This happens every moment in our life. Are we able to relate to this? Are you feeling satisfied that this model explains? I've still not gone to Mahat principle, the Purusha principle, and the Prakriti principle, because that'll come a little later when we go for other sutras. In this sutra, the focus is primarily on the Chitta element of that. Chitta is nothing but a combination, an aggregation of intellect, buddhi, manas, mind, and self-identifying principle. That's all. Ahankara tattva. That's all. All three put together is called the Chitta. And this is the one which is get modified by the external signals. This is the one which focuses on the internal thing, and which forces us to emotionally respond to it, which later manifests into physical activity through the physical elements called karma indriyas. This is how we recognize things, cognize things, react to things, act on our emotions. This is what we need to handle. Yes, please.
So how do we practice? Like, how do we who's seeing? Like, how do we see it? How do we like just go through our day, our daily lives and observe? But then I forget, and it's very hard to change. You change for a moment and then it comes back because you forget. You're saying not to change anything, just to see it.
Just say it right now. Just see the step. The step one is hearing about it. Like I said the other day, Shravana, hearing about it is the first step. The next step in transforming yourself is to internalize manana, think about it, contemplate it, right? Vidhyasana. Then you start analyzing it, contemplating, saying, okay, he said that the sense organ grasps and then projects something internal to the chitta, and then some element says it's good, bad, etc. And based on the intellect is judging further course of action. Is it really happening in life? You keep observing that. Because until we internalize this knowledge, theoretical knowledge, and more importantly, unless we experience what is told in this knowledge, it doesn't transform us. It becomes a bookish knowledge. So observe. I mean, it's not necessary that 100% you're convinced. Does it make sense at all? Because remember one thing. All these things are an effort by somebody to transcribe or write down his or personal experience in words of that person's choice so that others can read and relive this experience. Very strategically, for example, in the Sutra model, any Sutra you take, Yoga Sutra is one of the sutras, they will use very minimum words. There's a reason for that. Words can confuse people because it's open for interpretations. Words have got, same word has got slightly different meaning based on the context. Not only the context of the person who wrote it, more importantly, the context of the person who reads it determines the meaning. Therefore, more words you use, potentially more confusion you can create. That is one of the reasons all the sutras will have very minimum words. Yoga, Chitta, Vrutti, Nirodha, only 3 minimum words. After all, we're talking about agitations. Therefore, definitely you have to talk about the faculty which gets agitated. Therefore, Chitta has to be there. And unless the agitations are reduced and eliminated, you cannot find your true identity. And therefore, Nirodha has to be there. And you need a technique to do that. Therefore, yoga has to be there. That is why they use only barest minimum number of words. The corollary to that is, I am using so many words from my life, my experience to explain to you. By this process, surely, definitely, 100% guarantee, I'm introducing a lot of confusion in your mind. That is something inevitable because the entire process is like that. That's why in ancient Indian circles, most of the time they urge they position knowledge as a self-awareness process, not a transfer process. A transfer can never be 100% correct. Therefore, all the struggle is only to help you get self-awareness. That's why I keep stressing, you think through, you observe, you don't have to agree with me, find out your own way, etc. For the simple reason, that's the best is possible. In fact, there is a very famous statement in ancient wisdom called Vedas. You may have heard about it. We'll talk about some other time, which explains that the fundamental truth is so sublime, words recoil, unable to explain. That's the word, actual words used. The book which is set out to explain things cautions you that fundamental truth is so sublime, words can be very difficult to explain this. Then what else do we have as human beings? There's no other way. There's another way. There's a magical type. Very great yoga masters, meditation masters have the technique. They come and touch you. The moment they touch you, automatically things become clear to you. That is one way. But not everybody can do that. So what is the alternative? The best alternative is to explain that with the caution that more and more we explain, more and more we can confuse you. And therefore, we try to explain to the extent we can and leave it at that and say, you know what? You try it out. Figure it out yourself. Self-awareness is the best way. And by the way, if you remember in the beginning, we said that logically, this technique should have been given even before the creation of any living beings, because if it waited for any one particular person to come, the God is playing favoritism. Then he is no God at all. That means, logically speaking, anybody and everybody should be able to catch it through self-awareness. He's out there. Nobody, you don't need a God, or you don't need a guru, you don't need a Messiah to explain this to you. If you are able to connect it to the knowledge directly. If not, the next best thing is to have somebody explain it to you, and then, even then, you need to figure it out yourself. That's why I say that next 2 weeks, think of this. What is this Chitta element he talked about? 3 components. Does it satisfy? You asked this question, very beautiful question in the beginning. Does this answer satisfy? If not, why am I dissatisfied? What are the other questions I can ask him? Hopefully, collectively, 3 of us, 4 of us together, we should be able to figure it out in the next session if there are doubts about it. If there are no doubts about it, then try to experience this next 2 weeks. All right, Miral?
Yes.
Any comment from you?
No comment. Thank you very much.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. We'll see you 2 weeks down the line. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye, Mary. How is everything? How is everything?
Hi, Morel. Okay. How
Wow,
are
this
you?
was like very, very different, right? Very nice.
It
We're
was
gonna
awesome.
start
Are you
recording.
still
So,
recording? Are you still recording?
are you sure you want to? Yeah.